A Cadillac sealed my gate. My wife clung to her lover in that back seat. Two thugs lunged out with promises about my bones. Her choice to bring them, their mistake to charge. 1 month later, I found out she had a secret son. Our marriage was manufactured before I proposed, and the feds told me the woman I loved had never really existed. My name is Cole Brennan. I'm 43 years old, and until 2 months ago, I thought I understood my life. I've been the head of security systems installation at Morrison Medical Center for 16 years. Before that, I served 8 years as military police in the Army. Honest work, good benefits, the kind of job that lets you build something real. I married Vivian 14 years ago. She was sharp, beautiful, driven. We had our son Lucas 10 years back, and I thought we'd figured out everything that mattered. I was a fool. The day my world collapsed started simple. Tuesday, I finished a major installation ahead of schedule. Thought I'd surprise Lucas, maybe grab pizza before his mother got home. I turned onto our street in Aurora just after 4 in the afternoon. That's when I saw it. A black Cadillac Escalade parked sideways across our gate. Not in front of it, across it, blocking everything like a steel barricade. My gut twisted before my brain caught up. I parked on the street, got out slow. Through the tinted glass, I could make out 2 figures in the back seat, a woman pressed against a man's chest, clinging to him. My wife, clinging to someone who wasn't me. Before I could process what I was seeing, the front doors swung open. 2 men lunged out, dark suits, built like they'd spent their lives preparing to hurt people. They positioned themselves between me and my own front door. "Can I help you?" I kept my voice flat. The rear door opened. Vivian stepped out. She looked at me like a stranger she'd already forgotten. No shame, no hesitation, like this moment had been rehearsed. Then he appeared from the other rear door. Tall, silver-streaked hair, early 50s. His suit screamed influence, and his posture announced he was used to owning every room he entered. Dominic Carver. I'd heard the name before. Pharmaceutical distribution executive. Connections across every hospital system in Colorado. Vivian walked around the car. Dominic placed his hand on the small of her back. She leaned into him. The gesture was deliberate, designed to wound. "Cole," Vivian said, cool, rehearsed. "We need to talk." Dominic smiled, the kind of smile that expects compliance. "Your wife is with me now." His voice carried an accent I couldn't place. "I've packed her things. I'm here to ensure this transition stays civilized." I looked at Vivian, searched for anything resembling the woman I'd married. "Vivian, what the hell is this?" "Exactly what it looks like." She crossed her arms. "I'm leaving, Cole. I deserve more than this, more than you." The thug on the left, shaved head, neck like a tree trunk, stepped forward. "Mr. Carver wants this understood clearly. She's with us now. You try anything stupid, we're authorized to break something you'll miss." The second one cracked his knuckles, grinning. Rage built in my chest, hot, sharp, familiar. But I learned a long time ago, back in the desert, back when rage got soldiers killed, that anger only works if you control it. I let a cold smile spread across my face. "Let me understand this," I said, looking directly at Dominic. "My wife chose betrayal. That's her choice. But you brought these 2 to threaten me at my own home." Dominic's smile flickered. "Insurance, nothing personal." "Everything's personal." I looked at the 2 thugs. "You boys really want to do this?" They didn't wait to answer. The bald one rushed me first, wide right hook, predictable. I ducked under it, drove my elbow into his solar plexus. He folded like wet paper, gasping. The second came from my left. I pivoted, caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted hard, and used his momentum to slam him into the Cadillac's hood. He slid to the pavement, dazed and groaning. 10 seconds, maybe less. Dominic backed towards the car. His face had gone pale. "There's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding." I walked towards him. "You came to my house, threatened me. Bad decision." Vivian finally showed something. Panic flickered across her face. "Cole, stop. Just let us leave." I looked at her, really looked at her. "Where's Lucas?" Her eyes shifted away. "He's with my sister. He's fine." "You took my son without telling me." "Our son needed stability," she shot back, "not this chaos." I stared at the woman I'd loved for 14 years. I didn't recognize her at all.
They loaded into the Cadillac. The two thugs limped badly. Dominic kept his distance from me like I was radioactive. Vivian didn't look back once. I stood in my driveway watching taillights disappear. 14 years, gone like smoke. Inside, the house felt wrong immediately. Half the closet stood empty. Her laptop was missing. Pictures of us had been removed from the walls, leaving pale, rectangular ghosts on the paint. She'd been planning this, taking things slowly so I wouldn't notice. I called my sister Nora. "I need you to do me a favor. Can you come stay with me for a few days?" "Cole, what's wrong?" "Everything. I'll explain when you get here." The next morning, I showed up to work like normal. What else was I supposed to do? Sit at home and shatter? Morrison Medical Center had been my second home for 16 years. I knew every security system, every camera angle, every access point in that facility. My supervisor, Walter Chen, called me into his office before lunch. He looked uncomfortable, wouldn't meet my eyes. "Cole, we need to talk." He closed the door. "What's going on, Walter?" He shifted in his chair. "Corporate got a call yesterday from Dominic Carver's office." My stomach dropped through the floor. "Carver sits on the board of 3 hospitals in our network," Walter continued. "He's requested that we make some changes." "You're firing me." It wasn't a question. Walter looked miserable. "I fought it, Cole. You know I did. But it came from the top. I'm sorry." I stood up slowly. 16 years, Walter. 16 years I've given this place. I know, it's not right, it's not fair, but my hands are tied. I cleaned out my locker in silence. The guys on the floor knew something was wrong. A few tried asking questions. I just shook my head. What could I say? That my wife's new boyfriend was powerful enough to erase my career with a single phone call? When I got home, I found an envelope in the mailbox. Legal documents. Divorce petition. Vivian had filed 3 days ago, before the confrontation at the gate. She'd been planning this. It got worse. A temporary restraining order, claiming I'd been verbally abusive and threatening. Complete lies, but there it was in black and white. And buried in the paperwork, the real gut punch. Emergency temporary custody of Lucas, granted to Vivian. I wasn't allowed to contact my own son without her permission. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the papers. In 24 hours, I'd lost my wife, my job, my son. Have you ever watched your entire life collapse before you could take a single breath? My phone rang, an unknown number. I answered anyway. "Mr. Brennan?" A woman's voice, professional. "This is Detective Marla Vance with Aurora PD. I need to ask you some questions about an incident yesterday involving Dominic Carver." "What kind of questions?" "Mr. Carver has filed a complaint, assault charges. 2 of his security staff are hospitalized." I laughed, hollow and bitter. "They came to my house to threaten me." "That's not what the report says. Can you come down to the station?" "Do I need a lawyer?" She paused. "That's your right, Mr. Brennan." I hung up and called the only person I could think of. Victor Huang. We served together in the military police. He'd gone on to become a defense attorney while I chose civilian life. "Victor," I said when he picked up, "I need help." "Cole, what's going on?" "Everything is falling apart, and I think it's just getting started." Silence on the line for a moment. "Don't say another word on this phone. Meet me at the station in an hour. We'll handle this together." I hung up and sat in the empty house. Lucas's room was just down the hall. His basketball sat in the corner.
his posters still on the walls. My son was somewhere out there thinking God knows what about his father, and I couldn't even call him to say I loved him.
Victor met me at the police station looking sharp in his suit. We'd survived Kandahar together, watched each other's backs when everything tried to kill us. I trusted him more than anyone. "Don't say anything," Victor instructed as we walked in. "Let me handle this." Detective Vance was in her late 40s, professional but cold. She led us to an interview room and laid out photos of the two thugs from yesterday. "One has a fractured rib," she said, tapping the photos. "The other has a concussion. Your client assaulted these men." Victor didn't blink. "These men trespassed on my client's property and made explicit threats of violence. He defended himself. Where are the charges against them?" "Mr. Carver has decided not to press charges for the trespassing." "How generous," Victor said dryly. "Detective, we both know what this is, a man with money and connections trying to intimidate someone who got in his way." Vance's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Mr. Brennan, I suggest you stay away from Mr. Carver and Ms. Brennan." "She's still my wife," I said. "Not for long." Vance closed the folder. "And if you violate that restraining order, you'll be arrested." Outside, Victor pulled me aside. "Cole, I need you to be straight with me. Is there anything about this marriage, anything at all, that could come back to hurt you?" "Like what?" "Affairs, financial problems, anything Vivian could use against you." I thought about it. One moment flashed through my mind. A conference in Phoenix, 9 years ago. A woman whose name I'd tried to forget. "Nothing," I said. The lie tasted like ash. "Okay," Victor studied my face but didn't push. "We'll start building your case, but Cole, you need to prepare yourself. Dominic Carver isn't just wealthy, he's connected. This is going to get worse before it gets better." He was right. That evening, I hired a private investigator named Frank DeLuca, ex-cop, late 50s, reputation for finding what people bury deepest. "I want to know everything about my wife," I told him. "Where she goes, who she sees, how long this has been going on." Frank called me 4 days later. "You're going to want to sit down." We met at a diner. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, bank statements, hotel receipts. My hands shook as I went through them. "Your wife's been cheating for at least 9 years," Frank said. "Dominic's just the latest. Before him, there was a hospital administrator named Bradley Shaw. Before that, a surgeon, a financial advisor, a personal trainer. I found evidence of at least 8 different men." I felt sick. 9 years. Lucas had been 1 year old. "There's more," Frank continued. He pointed to a bank statement. "She's been moving money from your joint account to a private account in her name. Small amounts, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. Over 9 years, it adds up to about 50,000. She was stealing from me. Looks like it. He showed me a property record. This condo in downtown Denver, bought 4 years ago, listed under an LLC, but I traced it back to Vivian. She's been using it as her private apartment." The betrayal went deeper than I'd imagined. Our entire marriage had been a lie. Frank leaned forward. "And one more thing, and this one's going to hurt." I braced myself, thought I was ready. I wasn't. "Your wife had another child," Frank said quietly. "A son. She gave him up for adoption 16 years ago, a couple years before you two got married." The room tilted. "What?" "The boy's name is Theo Weston. He's 16 now, lives with foster parents in Colorado Springs. I contacted the agency. The kid's been asking for his birth mother for 2 years. I couldn't breathe. Vivian had a son she never told me about, a son who existed before our marriage, hidden away like something shameful. Does Vivian know he's looking for her? Don't know, but here's where it gets interesting. Frank tapped the folder. I found records showing Vivian visited Colorado Springs at least a dozen times over the past 8 years. Always told you she was at conferences or visiting family, right? Yeah. She wasn't,
And Cole, some of those trips line up exactly with the times she was meeting her other men. She's been using her own son as an alibi. I stared at the folder. My wife had abandoned a child and then used his existence to cover her lies. What else didn't I know about the woman I'd married?
I left the diner with Frank's folder burning a hole under my arm. That night, I sat in Lucas's empty room and stared at the photos of men I'd never met. Men who'd been with my wife while I was at work, providing for our family, building a life that meant nothing to her. And somewhere out there, a 16-year-old boy existed, a boy Vivian had hidden from me, a boy she'd used like a prop in her lies. If you're still here, you understand why some truths shouldn't stay buried. Staying subscribed means you won't miss the stories that remind us what people are truly capable of hiding. Victor called me at 6 in the morning. "Cole, we've got a problem." I was still half asleep. "What now?" "Judge Raymond Hollis is assigned to your custody case." "So?" "Hollis plays poker with Dominic Carver every month. They vacation together. They're close." I sat up. "Can we get a different judge?" "I'm filing for recusal, but it takes time. And Cole, there's something else. I got a call last night, anonymous, telling me to drop your case. The threat was implied, nothing direct enough to report, but the message was clear." This was exactly what Victor had warned about. Dominic had connections everywhere. Judges, cops, people in power. "What do we do?" I asked. "We go federal. If the local system's compromised, we need outside authorities. I have a contact at the DEA who handles pharmaceutical corruption cases." 2 days later, Victor and I met with Special Agent Renee Cortez in a federal building downtown. She was sharp-eyed, skeptical, but she listened. "What you're describing is serious," Cortez said after we laid everything out. "But we need evidence of actual corruption, not just social connections." "What about him getting me fired?" I asked. "One phone call and I lost my job." "That's not illegal, Mr. Brennan. Unethical, maybe, but not criminal." Victor leaned forward. "What if we could prove that Judge Hollis is taking bribes or that Dominic is using his influence to manipulate court cases?" "Then we'd have something," Cortez admitted. "But that kind of investigation takes months, and you need your son now." She was right. While we built a case, Lucas was stuck with Vivian and Dominic. That afternoon, I got another shock. An email from a woman named Patricia Weston, Theo's foster mother. "Mr. Brennan, Theo has been asking about his biological mother for 2 years. We recently learned that Vivian Brennan is his birth mother. Theo would like to meet you, if you're willing. He has questions. I think you might have answers." I called Victor immediately. "Is this legal? Can I meet him without Vivian's permission?" "Theo is 16. He has a right to seek out his biological family, and you're not violating any custody order because he's not your legal child. But Cole, be careful. This could get complicated fast." I drove to Colorado Springs the next day. The Westons lived in a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. Patricia greeted me at the door, cautious but kind. Theo sat in the living room. He had Vivian's eyes, her bone structure, but there was a weariness in his expression that reminded me of myself, a kid who learned too young that the world doesn't always give you what you deserve. "Hi," I said, sitting across from him. "I'm Cole. You're married to my birth mother." It wasn't a question. "I am, or I was. We're getting divorced." "Because she cheated on you?" I blinked. "How did you know that?" "I've been researching her," Theo said. "Found some stuff online. She's with some rich pharmaceutical guy now, right?" "Yeah, Dominic Carver." Theo wept down at his hands. "I wanted to meet her, find out why she gave me up, but now I don't know." "Theo," I said gently, "why did you want to meet me?" He met my eyes, and in that moment he looked far older than 16. "Because I wanted to know if everyone in my biological family was like her, selfish, a liar." My chest tightened. "I'm not," I said. "And Theo, I need to tell you something. Your mother, she used you."
Over the next hour, I explained everything Frank had uncovered. How Vivian had used Theo as an alibi for years. How she told me she was visiting family in Colorado Springs when she was really meeting other men. How Theo's existence had been nothing but a convenient excuse. Theo's hands trembled as he processed what I told him. "She used me as cover," he said quietly, "to cheat on you. Not just me. Before we got married, she was with other men. She'd tell people she was visiting you when she wasn't. You were her alibi before you even knew she existed." Patricia Weston put a protective hand on Theo's shoulder. "Mr. Brennan, this is a lot for Theo to handle." "I know. I'm sorry. But Theo deserves the truth about who his mother really is." Theo looked up. Tears streamed down his face. "All this time, I thought maybe she gave me up because she wasn't ready, because she was young and scared. But she's just selfish, isn't she?" "Yeah," I said. "She is." Theo wiped his eyes. "You have a son, Lucas, right?" "I do. He's 10. Does he know about me?" "No. Vivian never told either of us you existed." Theo stood up, paced to the window. When he turned back, there was steel in his eyes. "I want to testify in court. I want to tell the judge what kind of person she is." Patricia looked alarmed. "Theo, that's a big decision. You don't have to." "Yes, I do," Theo interrupted. "She threw me away, then used me to cover her lies. If I can help Cole keep his son away from her, I will." "Would you have the courage to stand in a courtroom and expose your own mother's lies?" Victor wasn't sure when I told him. "Cole, putting a 16-year-old on the stand is risky. The judge might see it as you manipulating a vulnerable kid." "He volunteered. And, Victor, he's a victim too. Vivian used her own son as an alibi. That speaks to character." "You're right, but we need to be careful how we present this." That night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered anyway. "Dad?" My heart stopped. "Lucas, buddy, are you okay?" "I miss you, Dad." His voice was small, scared. "Mom's boyfriend is weird. He keeps trying to act like he's my dad, buying me stuff, but it feels wrong." My throat tightened. "I'm working on getting you back, Lucas, I promise." "Dad, there's something else." He lowered his voice. "I heard Mom talking on the phone. She said something about you not being allowed to work anywhere in Colorado, about making sure no hospital would hire you. What does that mean?" Ice flooded my veins. "When did you hear this?" "Yesterday. She was talking to someone. I don't know who." I called Victor immediately after Lucas hung up. "They're trying to blacklist me, make sure I can't work anywhere in the state." "That tracks with what we know about Carver's reach," Victor said grimly. "Cole, I need to tell you something. I did some digging. Carver's distribution network touches almost every major hospital system in Colorado. If he puts out the word that you're toxic, you won't find work anywhere in his sphere of influence." "That's half the state." "Exactly. He's not just trying to take your son, he's trying to erase you completely." This was worse than I had imagined. "What do we do?" "We keep building the federal case. And, Cole, we need Theo's testimony. Whatever happens, don't let that kid change his mind."
2 weeks before the custody hearing, everything escalated. Victor called me at midnight. His voice was shaking. "Cole, it's my family. You need to come to my house, now." I drove to Victor's place in the suburbs. Police cars were parked outside, lights flashing. Victor stood on his front lawn, his arm around his wife, May. Their 2 kids, teenagers, huddled nearby, looking terrified. "What happened?" I asked. "Someone tried to grab May," Victor said. His voice vibrated with barely controlled rage. "She was getting groceries out of the car. A van pulled up. 2 men got out. They tried to force her inside." May was trembling.
I screamed. The neighbor came out with his dog and they ran. But Victor, they knew my name. They said, "Tell your husband to back off, or next time we won't leave." They were going after Victor's family to get him to drop my case. "I'm calling the DEA," I said. "Already did," Victor replied. "Agent Cortez is on her way." Cortez arrived within the hour. She listened to May's statement, examined the scene, then pulled Victor and me aside. "This is escalating faster than I expected," Cortez said. "Mr. Huang, your family is in danger. I can offer protective custody, witness protection if necessary." Victor looked at his wife and kids. I saw the war in his eyes. His family versus his principles, versus me. "Victor," I said quietly, "if you need to step away from this case, I understand. Your family comes first." He looked torn. May walked over and took his hand. "Victor, we're scared, but we're not going to let these people win. If you walk away now, they'll know they can threaten anyone who stands up to them. Our kids need to see that we don't cave to bullies." Victor's eyes filled with tears. He pulled his wife close. "You're sure?" "I'm terrified," May admitted, "but I'm sure." Victor turned to Cortez. "We'll take the protection, but I'm staying on this case." Cortez nodded. "Brave choice, and it might be the break we need." She looked at me. "Mr. Brennan, the attempted kidnapping gives us probable cause to investigate Dominic Carver directly. We can start pulling his communications, his financial records, everything." "What about the judge?" I asked. "Hollis is in Carver's pocket." Cortez's expression hardened. "We're aware. And Mr. Brennan, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this lawn." I nodded. "We've been investigating Carver's pharmaceutical distribution network for 8 months. Money laundering, fraud, theft from hospital supply chains. Your wife's name came up 6 months ago in connection with security system access at Morrison Medical Center." The ground shifted beneath me. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your wife may have been working with Carver long before their affair became public. We're still putting the pieces together, but there's a pattern here that goes beyond infidelity." Victor stepped closer. "You think Vivian was planted in Cole's life?" Cortez didn't answer directly. "I think we need to dig deeper, and I think Mr. Brennan should prepare himself for the possibility that his marriage wasn't what he thought it was." I stood in Victor's driveway, police lights strobing across my face. My marriage? Planted? Vivian, an asset. Every kiss, every promise, every night I held her, all of it orchestrated? That night, I learned that fighting for my son might cost someone else their family, and I started to wonder if I'd ever really known my wife at all.
3 days later, Agent Cortez called us into the federal building. "We found it," she said. Her voice was tight, controlled. "Mr. Brennan, you need to sit down for this." Victor and I took seats across from her desk. She slid a folder toward me. 8 months ago, we started investigating Dominic Carver's pharmaceutical distribution network, theft from hospital supply chains, controlled substances disappearing, security systems mysteriously failing during specific delivery windows. My stomach turned. Morrison Medical Center? Among others, but Morrison was the hub. The security systems there were compromised in ways that should have been impossible unless someone had insider access to the installation protocols. I shook my head. "I never gave anyone access. I designed those systems myself." "We know," Cortez said, "but someone in your household had access to your work computer, your files, your passwords." The room went cold. "Vivian?" Cortez nodded slowly. "We pulled Carver's communications, encrypted emails going back over 15 years, before you were married, Mr. Brennan." She opened another folder, printed emails, dates, names. 14 years ago, Dominic Carver identified you as a target. You'd just been promoted to head of security installation at Morrison. You had access to every system, every protocol, every vulnerability in one of Colorado's largest medical supply chains. I couldn't breathe. Carver needed someone inside your life, someone who could access your files without raising suspicion, someone you'd trust completely. "Vivian?" I whispered. "She was recruited 6 months before you met her, Mr. Brennan. We found payment records, training documentation. She was given a profile of you, your habits, your preferences, your weaknesses. She was instructed to make contact, build a relationship, marry you if possible." Victor's hand gripped my shoulder. "Your entire marriage was an operation, Mr. Brennan. Vivian was an asset. You were the target." Could you accept that 14 years of love were nothing but a job assignment? I stared at the papers, dates, payments, instructions. Target shows preference for direct women, approach confidently, express interest in his work, make him feel valued. They'd written a script for how to make me fall in love. "The affairs," I said, my voice hollow. "The other men. We're still investigating. Some may have been personal, others may have been additional intelligence contacts. Carver ran a network. Your wife wasn't his only asset." "And Lucas?" Cortez paused. "We don't believe your son was part of the operation. By the time he was born, Vivian had been in place for 4 years. The pregnancy may have been unplanned, but Carver adapted. A child made the cover stronger. My son, born into a lie." "What about Theo?" I asked. "Her first son?" "Given up before the operation began, but when Vivian needed alibis for her movements, she reconnected with the adoption agency, used Theo's location as cover for meetings with her handlers and other men. He was convenient." I thought about Theo, 16 years old, abandoned, used, never knowing why her mother threw him away. "Can we prove this in court?" "We can prove Carver's corruption. We can prove the theft operation. We can prove Vivian's involvement." Cortez leaned forward. "But Mr. Brennan, there's something else. Judge Hollis, the one assigned to your custody case, we found payments, quarterly transfers from a shell company linked to Carver, golf trips, a car for his wife, all documented. He's dirty. He's arrested. Happened this morning. Your custody case is being reassigned to a federal judge." For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. "We're going to get them, Mr. Brennan, all of them, but I need you to be ready for what comes next. When cornered animals fight back, they go for the throat." The day before the rescheduled custody hearing, Dominic Carver requested a meeting. Just the two of us, no lawyers. Victor advised against it, but I needed to look him in the eye, needed to hear what he'd say when the walls were closing in. We met at an upscale restaurant in downtown Denver, private booth in the back. Dominic was already seated when I arrived. He stood, extending his hand. I didn't take it. "Suit yourself," he sat back down. "Can I order you something? The steak here is exceptional." "I'm not here to eat. Say what you want to say." Dominic smiled, unbothered, still playing the part of a man in control. "Direct, I appreciate that." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, slid it across the table. I opened it. A cashier's check. $4 million. "What is this?" "Your future," Dominic said. "Sign over full custody of Lucas to Vivian. Agree to supervised visitation once a month. Disappear from their lives quietly. That money is yours." I stared at the check. $4 million. Enough to start over anywhere. "You're trying to buy my son." "I'm offering you a way out of a fight you can't win." Dominic leaned forward. "Cole, may I call you Cole? Let's be honest.
You've lost your job, your reputation is damaged, you're facing assault charges, a restraining order. Even if you fight this, you'll spend years in court, hundreds of thousands in legal fees, and you'll probably still lose. You made sure of that. Dominic shrugged. I protect my interests. Vivian is my interest now. Lucas will be raised with every advantage, private schools, connections, the best of everything. What can you offer him? Instability? A father drowning in legal battles? He leaned closer. Take the money, start over, find someone new, have another family, stop clinging to something that's already gone. I picked up the envelope. Dominic's smile widened. Then I tore the check in half, and half again, and half again. I dropped the pieces on the table. Here's my counteroffer. Go to hell. Dominic's smile vanished. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was not seeing what Vivian really was 14 years ago, but I'm done making mistakes. I stood up. When this is over, when the truth comes out about what you and Vivian have been doing, that empire you've built is going to collapse, and I'll be there to watch. I walked toward the exit. Dominic's voice followed me. Your wife has secrets too, Cole, about you, about Phoenix, 9 years ago. I stopped. She knows what you did, and she's going to tell the court tomorrow. I didn't turn around. I walked out into the cold Denver air. That night, my phone rang. Vivian's number. I answered. Cole. Her voice was different, smaller. Cole, we need to talk before tomorrow. About Phoenix? Silence. Then, you know? I knew Dominic would use it. I didn't want to, but Cole, they're going to bring it up. Dominic's lawyer found out somehow. They're going to paint you as a hypocrite. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Why do you care? More silence. When she spoke again, her voice cracked. Because some of it was real, Cole. Not all of it, but some. And Lucas, he doesn't deserve to hate both his parents. I hung up without responding. Phoenix, 9 years ago. A conference. A woman. One night I'd tried to bury forever. Tomorrow it would be exhumed in front of a federal judge, and I had no idea if I'd survive it.
The courtroom was packed. Judge Patricia Soto presided, a federal judge with sharp eyes and a reputation for cutting through nonsense. Judge Hollis was in federal custody, awaiting trial for corruption. The system was finally working. Dominic sat in the gallery. His empire was crumbling, but he was still fighting. Vivian sat at the plaintiff's table alone. Her lawyers had abandoned her when she'd agreed to cooperate with the DEA. Victor and I were at our table, outgunned on paper, armed with truth. Dominic's attorney, a desperate man named Gerald Knox, called me to the stand first. Mr. Brennan, Knox said, isn't it true that 9 years ago you were unfaithful to your wife? The courtroom went silent. I saw Lucas in the gallery with Nora, his eyes wide. Yes, I said clearly, I made a terrible mistake one night in Phoenix. I've regretted it every day since. And you never told your wife? No, I was ashamed, and I was wrong. Knox smiled. So while you're here claiming moral superiority, painting yourself as the victim of infidelity, you're actually a hypocrite who betrayed his own marriage vows. Victor stood. Your Honor, Mr. Brennan made one mistake a decade ago, a mistake he's acknowledging openly. Mrs. Brennan conducted affairs with 8 different men over 9 years, used her children as alibis, stole $50,000, and conspired in a federal theft operation. The comparison is absurd. Judge Soto looked at me. Mr. Brennan, did your single indiscretion become a pattern? No, Your Honor. It happened once. It's haunted me ever since. Did you use your son to cover it up? Never.
Did you steal money, commit fraud, or conspire to commit federal crimes? No, ma'am. Soto nodded. Mr. Knox, move on. Knox sat down, defeated. Then Theo took the stand. He looked terrified, but when he started speaking, his voice was steady. My birth mother gave me up 16 years ago. I've been in foster care my whole life. But she didn't just abandon me, she used me. Whenever she needed to cover up where she was really going, she'd tell people she was visiting her son in Colorado Springs. She made me part of her lies before I even knew she existed. The courtroom was silent. And it's not just me, Theo continued. She used Lucas too, made him keep secrets, made him lie about where she was. She uses everyone around her. Then, the moment that changed everything. The back door opened. Lucas walked in. He'd slipped away from Nora. Your Honor, Lucas said, his voice echoing, I want to say something. Soto was torn. Young man, this is highly irregular. I want to live with my dad. Lucas's voice cracked. Mom's boyfriend is creepy. Mom's always gone, and I miss my dad. Why can't I just live with my dad? Vivian stood. Lucas, honey, please. No, Lucas shouted. You lied to me. You said Dad hurt those guys for no reason, but I heard you on the phone. You told them to scare him. You're the liar, not Dad. The courtroom erupted. Soto's gavel came down. Order, but the damage was done. A 10-year-old boy had just called his mother a liar in open court. Soto called a recess. As we filed out, I saw Dominic's face, furious. Vivian was crying. Then Vivian asked to retake the stand. Your Honor, she said, her voice breaking, I need to tell the truth, all of it. She confirmed everything. The operation, Dominic's orders, the years of lies, the theft, the conspiracy. She looked at Lucas, at Theo, at me. I was supposed to use you, she said to me, but Lucas changed something. He made me want to be better. I failed him. I failed both of you. I failed everyone. Soto adjourned for final deliberation. As they led Vivian away in handcuffs, she looked at me one last time. Some of it was real, she whispered. You have to believe that. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to believe anymore.
2 months later, the sentences came down. Dominic Carver, 20 years in federal prison, money laundering, pharmaceutical theft, conspiracy, witness intimidation, corruption of a public official. His empire collapsed exactly like I told him it would. Vivian received 14 years, possibility of parole after 10. She'd cooperated fully with the DEA, which saved her from a life sentence. But cooperation doesn't erase 14 years of lies, 9 years of theft, 14 years of using everyone who loved her. Judge Hollis got 8 years. The golf trips and the car for his wife cost him everything, his career, his reputation, his freedom. The assault charges against me were dropped, self-defense on my own property. The 2 thugs who'd lunged at me that day never testified. They took plea deals for their role in Carver's operation and disappeared into the system. The restraining order was vacated, and Judge Soto granted me full physical and legal custody of Lucas. When she read the ruling, Lucas ran to me. I held him so tight I thought my arms might break. He cried into my chest, and I let my own tears fall into his hair. We're going home, buddy, I whispered, for real this time. Vivian was allowed one final supervised visit before her transfer to federal custody. I didn't want to be there, but Lucas asked me to stay, so I did. She looked different, smaller. The sharp edges that had defined her were gone. What remained was something I almost didn't recognize: regret. Lucas, she said, her voice cracking, I'm so sorry for everything. Lucas stood close to me. He didn't move toward her. Why did you lie? Asked Lucas. About everything. Vivian's eyes filled with tears. I made choices a long time ago, bad choices, and then I made more bad choices to cover those up, and before I knew it,
I'd built my whole life on lies. I couldn't find my way back to the truth. "Did you ever love us?" asked Lucas. "Dad and me?" Vivian looked at me, then back at our son. "Yes," she said. "That part was real, the only real thing I had, and I destroyed it." Lucas didn't hug her, didn't move toward her at all. "I hope you get better," he said quietly, "but I'm staying with Dad." They took her away after that. She looked back once. I held her gaze until she disappeared through the door. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel victory. I just felt tired and ready to rebuild. Theo moved in with us 3 weeks later. The Westons had been wonderful foster parents, but Theo was almost 17. He wanted to know his biological family, what was left of it that wasn't behind bars. Patricia and I worked out an arrangement, joint guardianship until he turned 18. After that, his choice. He chose us. The first night Theo slept under our roof, Lucas knocked on his door. "Hey," Lucas said, "want to play video games?" Theo looked at me. I nodded. "Yeah," Theo said. "Okay." I watched them walk down the hall together, two brothers who'd never known each other existed, united by a mother who failed them both. Something broke inside me, and something else started to heal. I rebuilt my career. A security firm in Boulder hired me, completely outside Carver's old network. Clean company, good people. They didn't care about the headlines. They cared about my 16 years of experience and my military background. Victor's family came out of witness protection once the trials ended. May still flinches at loud noises sometimes, but their kids are resilient, and Victor never stopped being my brother. Frank DeLuca sends me a Christmas card every year now. "Still finding what people bury," it says. Same message every time. Agent Cortez got promoted. She calls occasionally to check in. I think she sees us as one of the wins, a family that survived the wreckage. One evening, a few months after everything settled, I stood on the back porch watching the sunset over the mountains. Lucas and Theo were inside arguing about whose turn it was to pick the movie. Normal sibling stuff, the kind of noise I never thought I'd hear. My phone buzzed. A letter had arrived from the federal detention facility. Vivian. I didn't open it. Maybe someday I would. Maybe never. Some things don't need resolution. Some wounds just need time. I thought about everything we'd been through, the betrayal, the lies, the system that was rigged against me until it wasn't, the moment I tore up that check and told Dominic Carver to go to hell. I thought about Phoenix, the mistake I'd buried for 9 years, the shame I'd carried alone. We were all flawed, every one of us. The difference was what we did with those flaws, whether we let them define us or whether we fought to become something better. Lucas appeared at the door. "Dad, Theo wants pizza. Can we order pizza?" I smiled. "Yeah, buddy, we can order pizza." He grinned and disappeared back inside. I watched them walk down the hall together, two brothers who'd never known each other existed, united by a mother who failed them both. My marriage was a lie. My wife never really existed. The woman I loved was a character someone else had written. But my sons were real. This family was real, and we were building it on truth this time. Have you ever had to rebuild your entire life on the ashes of someone else's lies and still choose to believe in love?